So 343 today confirmed that Halo Infinite will not be a launch title for the Xbox Series X because it got delayed until 2021. I'm sure it was a very tough decision to make. There was a lot of backlash about the game's graphics. I really think it all comes down to the game also being on the Xbox One. I think as long as that game is still planned to come on the Xbox One, it's gonna have problems. There's no reason for a big next-gen title to also get a port on the last-gen consoles. The Xbox One was underpowered back when it came out, and now it's really underpowered in 2020. So you can imagine how many compromises they have to make to the core gameplay experience of Halo Infinite, to the graphics especially, in order to get Halo Infinite to run at 60 FPS on the very underpowered Xbox One. So it really doesn't matter how powerful the Series X is, because the old hardware is still holding it back. And I have no idea what Microsoft was thinking when they said that all of our big launch titles for the next couple years are also going to be on Xbox One. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that Microsoft has made so far with the Series X, because it holds back the potential that the console has, at least for the next couple years, because the old console from 2013 is going to drag it down. So I think what 343 needs to do, if they're really serious about making Halo Infinite the best game it could possibly be, and really this isn't up to 343, it's up to Microsoft. If Microsoft wants Halo Infinite to be the best game possible, they need to cancel the Xbox One version. They have to. Because I have a feeling, even if they delay it till 2021, even if it's delayed until 2022, as long as they're still working on a version for the Xbox One, Halo Infinite will have so much limited potential because the old hardware is holding it back. So while that may be good to keep people interested in the Xbox One, it does nothing to get people to buy your new console, because you're still focusing on the old console, reducing the quality of your first-party games, because if they were only on Xbox Series X, they would be a lot more impressive. Halo Infinite would be a lot more impressive. That trailer that you saw, the tech demo, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it would have been a lot more successful if they focused entirely on new hardware and not the old hardware from 2013. And that's ultimately going to hurt the Xbox Series X. Not only the fact that Halo Infinite got delayed, because now no one has any reason to give a shit about the Series X at launch, at least, because there are no first-party games. There's zero first-party games at launch. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Series X console, you can write it off right now and it's going to be a failure no matter what. Because remember in 2005 when the 360 launched, I mean, they didn't really have too many good games either. You had Perfect Dark Zero, which was meh, and that was pretty much it. So a console's launch may not define the entire success of the console over the years. I mean, remember the PS3, it had an awful launch. I mean, it did sell pretty good at launch, but the PS3 didn't make Sony any money for the first 3 years. You didn't have too many games that were worth playing, but eventually they caught up. So it's possible that Microsoft can eventually rebound and catch up with Sony, because, I mean, Sony's going to have a huge advantage for the first 2 or 3 years at least. They have the momentum coming in from last generation. The PS4 destroyed the Xbox One in terms of sales. More critically acclaimed first-party exclusives, so the PlayStation brand is more reputable than the Xbox brand is right now, and that's going to make a lot of people initially be more interested in the PS5 than the Series X, and Microsoft right now really isn't doing anything to convince people otherwise. The truth is, Microsoft doesn't really care about their console selling well. They're stuck in the clouds. They're in the cloud. They have xCloud, they have Game Pass, that's their main focus. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Microsoft has always been a software company first and then hardware second. Windows is the big thing that Microsoft is known for and has made Microsoft most of the money that it's made. Microsoft is not known for making good hardware. The Windows Phone were a failure. The Surface tablets still haven't caught on really. And although the Xbox consoles have done well, especially the 360, Microsoft has always viewed the home console market as a means to an end. They want people to get the console to get into their services, whether it's Xbox Live Gold, Game Pass, or whatever else they have. They have a completely different view on the video game industry and how to make money than Sony does. They have fundamentally different approaches, Microsoft and Sony. Sony is still fully committed to their hardware. They're not putting all their games on PC. Even with PlayStation Now, those games don't come out on PlayStation Now day one at launch. They still have a full standalone $60 release, so they still go the traditional way, and they're not so focused on the cloud and on services like Microsoft is. But the truth is, Microsoft is so focused on expanding their presence on PC and building up their services like Game Pass that they're almost neglecting their home console. They're neglecting the actual Xbox console. And that's what the Xbox is. The Xbox is a console. The Xbox is not in the clouds. It's not a service. It's a console. And right now in 2020, the Xbox brand has never been more worthless, because there's no point in buying a console. You don't have the games, and even with the games, you can play them on PC, which is a much better experience than any console could ever provide, that there really is no reason to buy the Series X console over a gaming PC, because the gaming PC can do everything the Xbox Series X can, but there are a lot of things that the PC can do that the Series X can't, because it's a console, it's restricted. And they also raised the price for Xbox Live Gold to $100 a year. $40 more than the PS5. With the Series X, Microsoft continues to make terrible decision after terrible decision. I don't understand what the hell they're thinking. I mean, I know they want to focus on their services, but do they not see how much this is hurting their actual console? Microsoft is giving this generation to Sony. Sony doesn't even have to try. Kind of like in 2013 when Microsoft was fucking up so bad with the always online DRM. That scumbag Don Matrick saying, if you don't like it, get an Xbox 360. Then when Matrick got fired and Phil Spencer came in as the head of Xbox, everyone was saying Phil Spencer was the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like he was gonna save Xbox. Well, turns out that Phil Spencer's leadership is not that great either. Probably not much better than Matrick, honestly. Because what has Phil Spencer done for the Xbox brand? Absolutely nothing. The Xbox brand is at the lowest point it's ever been in the entire history of Xbox since 2001. It's never been worse than it is right now. And that's just the truth. That's not some fanboy shit. It's how it is. It's reality. Xbox has no games and no reason to care about their brand. So I think the Series X is definitely in a lot of trouble. Probably as much trouble as Sony was in 2006, and maybe almost as much as Microsoft was in 2013 with the Xbox One. You'd think they learned their lesson after how awful the Xbox One turned out, but no, they keep making terrible decisions, and it just baffles me. So I guess we'll see what happens. Microsoft definitely has time to turn things around, even if the launch is terrible, which I think at this point, we know that's going to happen. The PS5 is going to easily outsell the Series X for at least the first year or two, because Xbox has no games. And if you don't have the games, there's no reason to buy your console.